Wow. So we're going to go over, we're going to rewind to a very famous speech of Putin's. We're going to talk about this during the entire show because there's a lot going on. And now we're going to fast forward to what is happening in the United States. What is happening to us here? What is happening to you all over the world, all of our allies that depend on the U.S.? Some very, very freaky things when you go back to this speech. Now, as far as this speech goes, it was taken from one of his addresses. And when you actually look at it and now take a mirror to what is happening right now, it is pretty freaky. And it's really, really terrifying, some of the things being said. And if it was true, if it is 100% true, which I'm sure people will have their doubts, it would be very, very, very scary. But let me just read a couple of the quotes out here, and we're going to cover all of today's events. In fact, we have a whole docket ready for you. It says the Western elite will make no secret of their goal, which is, I quote, Russia's strategic defeat. What does this mean to us? This means they plan to finish us once and for all. In other words, they plan to grow a local conflict into a global confrontation. This is how we understand it, and we will respond accordingly, because this represents an existential threat to our country. It says, however, they too realize it is impossible to defeat Russia on the battlefield and are conducting increasingly aggressive information attacks against us, targeting primarily the younger generation. Now, mind you, this is what United States declares other countries are actually doing to us right now. It says they never stop lying and distorting historical facts as they attack our culture, the Russian Orthodox Church, and other traditional religious organizations in our country. Look at what they are doing to their own people. It is all about the destruction of the family, of cultural and national identity, perversion, and, of course, treating we ones not so well. I'll leave it at that, including, of course, the really bad people, all of which are declared normal in their life. Technically, the TED Talk was trending last weekend saying that they actually would like to say that that is a preference. So, again, pretty nuts that some of this is actually current, right? All of which are declared normal in their life. They are forcing priests to bless same marriages, bless their hearts, let them do as they please. Here's what I would like to say to this regard. Adult people can do as they please. We in Russia have always seen it in that way and always will. No one is going to intrude into other people's private lives, and we are not going to do it either. But here's what I would like to tell them. Look at the Holy Scripture and the main books of this world religions. They say it all, including that family is the union of a man and woman, and that these sacred texts are now being questioned. Reportedly, the Anglican is planning to explore the idea of a gender-neutral God. What is there to say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He spoke to millions, and the opinion of actual Russia has now, of the U.S., has now changed. And there's been a lot of folks that are out in the streets basically saying exactly the same thing. In fact, content creators and others from Russia are reverberating what he says. And what's even crazier is a lot of us have seen many of the points in here. But the main point is that he is telling his people, and he's getting people ready, and they are essentially telling their people, this is our main enemy, and this is who we're going to be going to war with. This speech was much bigger. They talk about a conflict that is to come. They talk about growing a small conflict into a large one, which is now happening. This was February 21st of 2023. It is now February of 2024, and look at where we are at right now. We're going to talk about it, and tonight there's a lot of crazy stuff. In fact, on the docket for tonight, we are going to be talking about aircraft carrier sidelined, strangely enough, and of course, Britain talks of World War III. We, of course, have Tucker is in Russia right now, and everybody is questioning whether he will talk to Putin. China and Russia team up on space and AI. We have China threatens Japan, which we called. Is the king on his way out? We have deadly drone attack in the Middle East. We have California is underwater. We have Bitcoin founder could be revealed, and he might have a $46 billion fortune chilling in his bank account, or her bank account, we don't know. And a new category of hurricanes. They're literally talking about a new category above 5. And is China invading Guam? We'll hit that at the very end. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, somebody was saying, I don't see exactly Putin as a good guy. No, we do not. And just to clarify, so not saying that Putin's a great guy, but in fact, as far as the propaganda kings, that would be Russia. But as far as where the people go and how they are thinking, if they are supporting a war with the world, then that's not a good thing either. Not to mention, this is, again, they had 3 speeches in that year. 2 of them got coverage. This got far less coverage than the others, because a lot of the quotes in here are referencing to what he believes is going on here. Crazy part is, though, most of that, obviously anybody that is not afraid to say it, that kind of stuff is being talked about right now. But it's not being talked about by 99% of the media, because that's the kind of stuff that will get you on the wrong side of cancel. So that's the crazy part about this, is all he has to do to really have people say, oh, he's telling the truth, is basically say the things that we really don't allow on most legacy media, most things, but it's what half of the country is really thinking. And honestly, now all of those subjects have become touchy and taboo, but they really shouldn't be. If there is religious freedom in the United States, almost all of those are religious beliefs, and therefore should be protected, not looked at like this is this versus that, a group this is versus that. If you want to believe what you believe in that, right? If you want to do something with your body, with your person, you do that. Don't force it onto others. And I can see both sides on not forcing this to do that, but at the same time, it looks like only a few parties are really persecuted. Now, somebody else said, Carly said, oh, well, he's just a puppet of this Bohemian, this and that, the imperialist, whatever else. Yeah, no, I guarantee you, all of these people are usually a puppet of somebody above them. And what's crazy is Elon says that Putin is the richest man in the world, or much richer than him. He says that he's so rich, but Putin is actually richer than him. If that is true, you would think, oh, maybe he's in charge. No, he's not. In fact, he may be richer if that is true, but that doesn't mean there's somebody that isn't named that's even richer than him. We have these lists of like the richest man in the world. Those don't actually matter. That is not the real richest people in the world. The richest people in the world do not get put on lists. They do not get put in Forbes. They own Forbes. They have complete control over who knows how much money they have. In fact, probably not many know. Even at that level, they probably know they have more money than them, but that's about it. It's funny Elon mentions that so much, because it's obvious that, that's a title, richest man on planet, right? I'm sure it goes to your head pretty quickly, like, I'm the richest man on earth. He always responds, no, Putin's richer. And that's probably something that they all secretively know, like, who's above me? Putin's above Elon, right? But either way, with this whole thing, it's like they have been preparing the world. We've shown you what Xi has told his people. They're preparing the world for war. It should be super clear right now. We are going to war. And in I would say in a few months' time, this is going to be extremely clear. Everybody is already talking about it. It's already trending. But we've been sitting here for 5 years looking at all the signs, looking at all the contracts, looking at all the movement, looking at all the hacks, looking at all the attacks, looking at all of the things that are happening and going, it's obvious it's going to be a war. Now that the war is here, people are going, oh no, it's still not here. It's still not here. And it's going to be very, very crazy when this all starts going down. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So
and I'm not the richest man in the world.
Yeah. So from the Kremlin over to NATO, UK aircraft carrier sidelined from largest NATO exercise since Cold War due to a propeller problem. Dex, do you want to go over that one?
Wow, they're having lots of issues. We've had negative mentions from them with their destroyers and other warships in the Red Sea not being able to connect with the land as far as the munitions they were carrying, so they really couldn't participate. Then they sent an aircraft carrier to the Red Sea, and now they've got the HMS Queen Elizabeth that's going to be joining the largest event with NATO. And now it's out of commission, and apparently it has a propeller problem, and I can only imagine the size of the prop on that on that aircraft carrier. It's got to be ginormous. And I guess if it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then they have to get it fixed. But yeah, they've had a few issues here recently. I think weren't they the ones that also had the two ships. One of them was wired backwards and it backed into another ship. I'm pretty sure that was the UK as well. So I'm not knocking the UK, but at the same time, they have just had a complete litany of issues with the Navy recently. And we even had another report that came out and said that they weren't even prepared for a conflict with Russia. They would lose because they haven't been able to keep up their military size. They haven't been able to keep up their Navy. Their investments in recruitment and all that are way down, which sounds very familiar over here, at least on the recruitment side. That's for sure. But yeah, that's the story right now. This was supposed to be a big event. It is still going to happen. This 90,000 troops for this NATO event that's underway. It's all the way through sometime in May. I can't remember the end date. But apparently the HMS Queen Elizabeth is out of commission.
On top of that, we just covered a story where, of course, their Navy doesn't actually have sea to land missiles. So they have some pretty big gaps if they were to actually defend. And then back to the map, let's go over to Britain. We will have enough weapons for World War III, insists top minister, as spending reaches $50 billion. That's actually more in US dollars. That's 50 billion euros. So I forget how much, like $60 billion or something like that. But it says that they said that the military is consistently overstretched, leading to the capability and stockpile shortages, as well as recruitment crisis. The government risks being unable to build true warfighting and strategic readiness because of the sheer pace of operations, which could threaten the security of the UK, the report said. The MPs urged ministers to ensure that troops are fully prepared and given appropriate training, time, and adequate resources before they are in a position where they could enter a high-intensity war. So the wording, by the way, is already talking, this is talking of World War III, where it goes hot. It's not jumping into a thing where they sit in a barracks 90% of the time and get a couple pot shots at their base. We're talking about high-intensity, jumping into the front lines right off the bat. It says, however, the Education Secretary has reassured Britons that they need not panic, stating the military is ready. So they're not saying need not panic because the war is not coming. Need not panic. We're close to World War III. They're just saying we're ready for it. It says, speaking on Sky News, she said, we're spending more than $50 billion on defense. Put that in perspective. We wipe our butts with the U.S. With that much money on our defense budget. Our defense budget alone is like $876, the highest it's ever been. $860 billion this year. But it says that is to ensure that we have operational capabilities, whether that's to conduct NATO missions or to help UKR, whether it's to conduct same missions or some missions that are now taking place in the Red Sea. She continued, we have that operational capability at all times, so we're ready to be there. Our armed forces are ready to be there or conduct whatever it is to be required. And they've shown time and time again how well they do and what vital part of the global order they play. There have been growing speculation about the possibility of a growing global conflict, with Defense Secretary Grant Shapps warning that the world was moving from a post-war to a pre-war world. That's just one of many comments. And we covered the Grant Shapps speech, but we also covered many others by some of the top people of every country. They're all talking about this. All of the NATO countries are telling their citizens at this point to be ready for war. There's going to be a point where it's the point of no return to the people that are saying we're not going to World War III. World War III is not the end of the world. And I think in everywhere else, they should be saying this too. World War III does not mean end of the world, end times. This means World War III. World War III, if it doesn't go, nuclear, the majority of the people on the planet will survive through World War III. But it will probably affect all of us, no matter where you are. Doesn't matter if you're in an adversarial country or if you're in one of our allied countries. This is happening. And now it's really hard for people to deny that it is. It says the former foreign secretary, who also served as leader of the opposition from 1997 to 2001, suggested Britain could emulate Norway's national service scheme, which sees 1 in 5 18-year-olds having to serve in the armed forces. So I just want to point out, this is just a tidbit in the bigger speech of it, but they're talking about conscription, or a selective conscription, or a volunteer or mandatory lottery for people that are conscripting. This is so many different countries are now setting up that framework. Once you see that framework, it's getting closer. You, of course, have many countries extending. So Taiwan had 4 months mandatory service. Now they have extended that to a year. The U.S. has been adding things in quietly, adding language. They are talking about adding women to the conscription, to the draft. We're talking about drafts here, right? Or mandatory service and mandatory conscription, right? So all of this is being set up. This is on top of the thousands, and I'm not even exaggerating, thousands of other signs that we are about to be at a hot war. It is not the end of the world. It is the beginning of a new one that not many people will like. A new one where you will own nothing and be happy. That's where we believe this is going. But yeah, Dex, do you want to just briefly sum up? This says they have enough equipment, but we've actually seen contradicting things just in the last couple days.
Folks, you guys make sure to check the end of this article. And Adam, you and I were talking about this earlier in the show. They are predicting that they're growing their army from 73,000 troops to 120,000 within 3 years. Why are they ramping up so big, so quickly? We know why. I mean, again, yet another sign that the conflict in Europe is raging and getting ready to burst. And I'm predicting, I'm saying that I'm not predicting that number. They're saying that number. I'm predicting that is a sign they're not just growing it to be stronger. They're spending a lot. If they're spending $50 billion, it's like 10% of their GDP. Okay, I don't know if that's what they're spending. That's what she said. But, and it is that 73,000 troop level is pretty low. And that's what a lot of people have been saying. They're kind of low right now. They should have been like 78 or 80. But they're saying that within 3 years, the UK should have a larger army of 120,000, which would be comprised of regular soldiers, reserves, Sanders advised. So that's a big growth. It's a huge jump.
Yeah, percentage-wise, it's a giant growth, and you have to understand that army in itself is not taking over any other countries. It's not going to be invading the rest of the planet. But it is, when you add it into the grand scheme of things, when you look at all of the other countries that are also doing the same, they're looking at the big number, how they can raise that big number up to where they are fighting China, Russia, Iran. Put it in perspective, Iran by itself has, 580,000 active soldiers, right? 580,000, over 500,000. And that's not including the 200,000 extras on reserve. So it's about 780,000, almost 800,000 soldiers. Then you add in, get this, 23.5 million people that are in the Benadaj or Benahij. It's in every town, in every village, in every city, they have these kind of volunteer armed forces that are kind of militias, but they're also community driven, right? The guys who join the Benij, those guys are the ones who end up getting better positions in law enforcement, better positions in politics. Those are also groups that can be mobilized. So you're talking about possibly, even if not all of them, say 10 million of them were mobilized as an army. That is an insane manned army. And of course, with China, you're talking about a population of 1.4 billion, but their actual standing army, we have, they have an official number over a million, but they have some. We read last year, it was like they could quickly get up to like 3 million people going like this into a war. So we're talking millions of people involved. And that's just a few of the countries involved. We're talking all of NATO versus all of these other countries. Not to mention, we're not even just talking about NATO. We're talking about tonight Japan. The reason why Japan's been involved this whole time, the reason why Japan has been ready, changed their constitution, and now they're going to be an offensive force instead of just a defensive force, that will be pretty clear tonight, because now the things that they said were going to happen, it looks like is going to happen. So we'll cover that here in a minute. But first, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield with all of the different countries involved. Almost every one of them has made some sort of threat regarding to either electromagnetic pulse or some sort of grid down scenario. As far as the threats against the United States and some of our allies, EMP is one of the most likely scenarios if they did do a massive attack, much over, say, a strike or a nuclear strike. An EMP would knock down our grid. It would not directly take any lives, but right away it would cause chaos in our entire country. They say that if our power went down via EMP and it fried all of our devices, our transformers, and our grid, that 90% of America would die in the first year. That is not because we would all be taking each other out. That would be because of critical infrastructure that went down. No clean drinking water. They say water would be the main part of that. So also, side reminder, get yourself extra water. But as far as this device, it grounds the signal before it can fry your device in less than 500 trillionths of a second. What can you protect with it? Well, you can protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, ham radios, generators, gas and solar in the case of the Flex, and you can even protect your home. To everything wired in within 250 linear feet will be protected. This is something that, again, you definitely want to check the availability of them. If they are out of the regular, make sure to go check out the Micro. The Micro is all the same protection, only in a smaller package, so you can fit it into smaller vehicles or into smaller spaces. But this is easy, black to black on your battery, red to red on your battery, and green to ground. 3 wires that you really need to find a place for, and then bolt it into the side of your engine block and you're good. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It will not only help support us as independent media, but it will also help protect yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. The government is working, not only DHS, DOD have worked with EMP Shield, but now they're on the Dempster team helping protect the Texas grid. They're going to try to protect themselves, their military bases, their government buildings. But as far as protecting the civilian population, that is up to us. marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. Don't want to forget, this will protect against a Carrington level event from the sun. So that big CME and a possible event like that you've heard about, this will also protect against a Carrington level event. And then Dex, Kremlin declines to comment after U.S. commentator Carlson reported to visit Moscow.
Oh boy, everybody's in a big hubbub over Tucker potentially getting the interview. Now, a lot of people are saying, hey, this is great if he's there and he gets the interview and he does the one-on-one and presents it. That's, fantastic journalism. And then, of course, there are people that are against this and saying that it's, akin to, treason or whatever, right? Going against everything that is going on in UKR and helping out and carrying Putin's water, as you like to say, Adam. So yeah, we don't know. Nothing's come out yet. Nothing's been official, although he was spotted in Moscow on February 3rd attending a ballet. I guess a Russian Telegram channel had published that out. But as of the 5th, he had not publicly commented on the alleged trip. And the Kremlin spokesperson, when asked about it on the 5th today, said that he could not comment on the commentator and whether or not his reported visit to Moscow, or even speculate as to whether Carlson was there to interview Putin. So a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to come of this. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation many months ago that, hey, maybe Tucker will go and interview him. And I think a lot of folks were, thinking that's going to happen. And now if he's there, it's probably the likelihood is pretty high. I don't think he's just going there on a, vacation and to check out the ballet. So I'm expecting that we'll see something in the coming days on this.
Yeah, so somebody made a comment saying, "Whoa, yeah, far, right, right." That's why I left that out. I hate that they've now labeled people this or that. I never see media say the far to the other side ever. And I'm not even trying to take a side. It's just the facts. I've covered a million stories on both sides. They rarely ever call anybody far the other direction when there's a lot of extreme things. I mean, we're talking about changing things. I would say extreme. Here's how I would say extreme. Changing something that has been normal for thousands of years, and then maybe even changing something that's been normal for hundreds of years. Just changing it completely and saying, hey, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to say that. What they call extreme or far to one direction are the people saying, can we keep it the same or keep it close to the same? I think if you really think about it like that, what is this side arguing? What is this side arguing? You've got a lot of the regular people that are closer to the middle or slightly this way. They are now calling that way out here. I like how Elon put it. One of the things that I did think he put well is, now, if you take a 1960s liberal, right? If you take a 1960s Democrat in today, that person will have moved all the way over to the right. They haven't changed their views. They haven't changed what they believe, but the bracket has now changed. It's all the way over here. Now, if you were over on the left, you are now on the right. You've heard time and time celebrities and people come out. In fact, Rogan just came out and says, I've been a liberal my whole life. Now my views line up with the right. It's like these kind of things are now happening. They've moved the bracket without moving the views, which there's no right or wrong side to be on. But what I do think is wrong is that they label stuff like this. They label everybody because you're on this team or you're on that team. They're two wings of the same bird, and they're holding hands behind the scenes. If you look at what's going on in our government and in every government, the people that are yelling at each other and pointing to poster boards and saying, you did this and you did that, those are the same people that the second that the cameras turn off, they're going and drinking a beer together and saying, okay, what do I need to pay you or bribe you with to get you to go my way on this? These are horrible people. We heard the Kari thing. If you heard that, you'll know how 99% of these guys work. That is the truth. It's on both sides. But when you look at somebody like Tuck, I would hardly consider him extreme, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, I guess. And then as far as Carlson, that video that you'll see of him, he kind of is coy about it. Some people, even if they're, like Tucker, they say he shouldn't be over there talking to Putin. But it is called being a journalist to talk to the other side, to talk to, to get the views that nobody's talking about. Right now, you can't go and watch RT on certain platforms. You can't see their propaganda. You only see, I guess, ours, right? And then China and Russia discuss outer space and AI weapons in chilling threat to the U.S. I mean, how does space and AI team up, Dex? What does that actually mean? What are we talking about? Rod of God type stuff?
Well, to continue their notion of this no limits partnership, they had talks last Thursday, and in those talks were a couple of things. One of them being AI, and they agreed to consult and coordinate with each other when it comes to the use of AI in their armed forces. So I guess as they expand their military capabilities with AI, they're going to coordinate with one another. So I'm assuming there's probably, maybe teaching each other's AI not to attack one another, but at the same time, as they each get advances in their code, they're probably going to help one another, so that they can leverage that and bring their product to market much faster. As it relates to space, they agreed to boost the cooperation under a group of governmental experts of the states of parties, and they're basically, agreeing that as space comes forward, that they want to, or this notion of space militarizing space, that they're going to be working together on it. So I think they go hand in hand, because I think as anything that's being built today, it'd be crazy to think that it doesn't have AI in it. I mean, let's rewind. I mean, even the F-22 has artificial intelligence in it. It's had it for years. It just doesn't have. It's not as mainstream as we think of it, and it's probably not as powerful as we think of it today. But they have had the capabilities to have military equipment do a lot of things on its own. That's not new technology. It was just required a lot of heavy processing, a lot of heavy code. So we do know, though, that China has been working to get other countries to partner up with it as far as space goes, as far as exploration and building of a potential base on the moon. I believe Egypt signed up first. So I think they're going to be quick to find partners like Russia to continue and expand their space exploration, especially those partners that are not necessarily aligned with the West.
And as far as there's a whole varying kind of view of course, space, and a view of how scary AI truly can be. But when you put weapons after the word AI, that is where you should be scared of where this is going. AI, I mean, if you think about any of the options, you're talking about a weapon that has a mind of its own. Now, if it was a sentient mind, that would make it even more terrifying. But even on its own, being autonomous, being able to decide on its own, that is a scary thing. Drone swarms are one of the AI weapons that has been heavily worked on lately. And you're talking about a drone swarm where you have 1,000 drones, all as big as a DJI, but each one strapped with a explosive. And each one has facial recognition, can work on its own or work in tandem with the rest, and take 1,000 people out, or 1,000 homes, or 1,000 locations, all without having anyone controlling them. Nobody with an Xbox controller in a container 1,000 miles away. They don't need it. That's why they're building aircraft carriers for drones. These things are going to be completely unmanned and work on their own. To do that, I believe that's why they're scanning the world and scanning with lasers and computing and rendering the planet. Go ahead, Dex.
There was one other thing that the author of the article sort of left out. At least he left it out in the headline, and it should have been in there. And that is this quote: China's statement added that the talks covered outer space security, which is in there, artificial intelligence was in there, but biosecurity. Now, biosecurity, you might just think, yeah, they're just talking about, what does that mean? Like using a thumbprint to get through a secure door? No. They're talking about bio weapons and the security that involves in that. I think that's the code word to sort of get back to that notion of all the things we've talked about with Neurostrike and everything else that China's developing. They specifically called out that, and this is coming from China's statement about the summary of this meeting, that they covered biosecurity as well with Russia.
And as far as how bio and technological advancements are moving together, you're talking about stories we've covered, like China developing something that could be delivered, say, physically into a person that would allow them to say, hey, you're going to stop talking. You're going to stop being able to walk. You could then not be able to talk anymore. Like, these are the kind of things. Think about if you had something you could either release, and then every single person who, I don't know, either breathed it in or somehow got it in, stopped working, stopped walking. That would stop the advancement of troops, I'm pretty certain. And this is something that could be, who knows, aerosolized. This is now real. They're making stuff that is just unbelievable. And that's not even touching on neurostrike technology, anything like that. Say you bring a neurostrike technology type of thing, something that could send out frequencies, and then put that on a AI robot that could go in without any humans, unmanned, no threat to themselves, but a threat to whoever is in front of it. That's scary too. Look up Neurostrike or watch our show on it. We actually had what is it? EJ Eads or LJ Eads?
LJ Eads. Yeah.
One of the 3 experts that really brought this up and now is getting national coverage on it came and called into our show. So his comments were really concerning. And this is something that really you've heard a few places. Maybe you haven't heard of it at all. We were talking about it at the very cusp of it. And in the future, you're going to go, whoa, this is what I heard about years ago. Now it's here. It's no longer theoretical. You're talking about mind control with frequencies. So imagine how that could teamed up. And if you had it floating above you, balloons or low Earth satellites, not to mention they said that they have satellites, they could knock out they could jam the world with 28 satellites. At least that's what they claim. 28 satellites could knock out the world's communications. And then Japan, U.S. ally, faces fresh challenge in the East China Sea. Well, what this is, and this is what we said when we talked about why is Japan turning their country into an offensive one? Well, they were worried about China going after their islands and their disputed claims. China has warned the Japanese Air Force to leave the airspace near the Senkaku Islands in a fresh case of tensions over the disputed islet territory. On February 3rd, just 2 days ago, the China Coast Guard began to issue warnings to Japanese Self-Defense Forces, SDF aircraft, last month demanding that they vacate the airspace over and around Japan-controlled, China-claimed Senkaku Islands, known as Diu in China and Kyoto News reported. It says these warnings communicated via radio are based on Beijing's assertion that SDF aircraft may infringe upon Chinese territorial airspace, highlighting a significant increase in diplomatic tensions. So this is what they did in the South China Sea in the areas that they made the Spratly Islands, and many countries actually follow their warnings. These are the videos you saw in 60 Minutes and 2020 years and years ago, how they said they would fly through a certain area. You would get China on the horn saying, this is China airspace. You need to leave now. And many countries actually did. The U.S. would say, well, we're just going by the Freedom of Navigation Act and we're doing what we're supposed to in international waters and we're following all applicable laws, right? They're doing this to Japan at the Senkaku Islands. So this is exactly the scenario that we painted and that everybody predicted. So Dex, go ahead.
Can we go back to the map? I think this is probably a good geography lesson for everyone if we can take a look at it and kind of zoom in and out in that area. This is extremely close. So when you zoom out a little bit, you can look off to the right and probably see Okinawa, one of the larger of the tiny islands that are very way south of mainland Japan. And a lot of people just think of Japan as up here, this large island base outside of Korea, the Koreas. But there's really a whole litany of little bitty islands that run all the way down to Taiwan. And as a matter of fact, these little ones that they're fighting over, you can barely see. You have to zoom in pretty far to see them. But again, look at the distance those are from Taiwan and why it's so important, including other islands owned by Japan there, like Yonaguni, which is right there off the coast of Taiwan. So these are strategically important. And you can see why China would like to push them back off of anything they could. But at the same time, you got to pay attention to what Japan controls down through there. There's actually a large handful of tiny islands. And as you zoom out, that runs all the way from Taiwan, all the way up to mainland Japan. as you would normally think about geographically. I know most of us don't get into the minutia of all of the tiny little islands and archipelagos and inlets, islets, and stuff that are there. So, yeah, pretty fascinating.
Gosh, Japan is in such a crazy place in the world. By the way, one other interesting thing when you look at the planet here, the 2011 earthquake. I don't know if this is the subduction zone that may have done that, but essentially out in the ocean, they did not know that it was capable of a 9.0 earthquake. I wonder if it was this thing that basically the two parts in the world that just, snapped and went whoosh and sent that ginormous tsunami their way. It's what a beautiful place, but man, so a lot of people do not realize how far Japan goes down, because on simple maps you just see the Japan. You don't see, if anything, you see a couple little dots, but it runs down to the very top of Taiwan. Those islands, I think they even put pictures of them from a plane into Google Earth because you can't see them from their satellite photos. That's why it looks like, they straight up pasted them in, because they probably did. Those islands, though, are in such a strategic area. It's going to be incredibly important to Japan. And this is crazy. So I did pull up the Nostradamus prediction because we talked about this last year when the Queen died. Obviously, many people were either hurt or not surprised because of her age. King Charles took over. Well, King Charles isn't a spring chicken himself. In fact, many people believed back in the 80s that he was going to be taking over soon. Well, he ended up taking over. Now he has been diagnosed with a cancer. Now, I've had friends diagnosed with cancer. Some of them, 6 months, they were gone. So I don't know how rough of a cancer this is, or if they're going to go through treatment, or King Charles is going to go treatment. But there's a Nostradamus prediction that a lot of people mentioned when he took over. They said that the king that nobody likes will not last long, essentially, that won't be around for much long, will basically leave, and that a man who no one expected to be king will be king, right? Predicted King Charles will abdicate for a new, unexpected mystery monarch. Now, a lot of folks thought this would be Harry because it is the person who nobody expects. Everybody expects his brother. I keep forgetting his dang brother's name. Prince
William.
Prince William. So William is in the spot. So for Harry to take the spot, if William takes the spot, it's not unexpected. It is expected. So if this prediction came true, which is now 50% coming true right now, or at least it's 25%, because he would have to perish very soon for this to be true. But the other part of it would be that something would happen to a Harry or a William and have Harry take over. It's really quite trippy to think about all of the predictions for 23 and 24, not only by the Baba lady, but Nostradamus. People, oh no, for that to happen, King Charles would have to, die really quick. And now he's diagnosed with cancer like a year into his kingship. I don't know if that's what you call it, but you guys get what I mean. And of course, they mentioned Harry as the unexpected king. What if Harry, the one that went on Netflix and kind of trash talked the whole royal family, if he was king, that would be really left field. But could you see anything else besides something absolutely crazy and weird happening at this point? The truth is stranger than fiction at this point. Our world is a true circus. So thought that this was very interesting, that's something that we talked about last year, and this thing that everybody was talking about, this prediction, now it looks like it's on a path where it could almost come true. It says a man who never expected to become king would take the throne, the late author in 1555 said. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be Prince Harry, or do you think it's going to be Prince William if King Charles bites it? It also mentions there's other predictions that talk about how Charles, whoever takes over from the current queen, that this would be somebody that nobody likes. I'm not saying that. I don't know I don't follow the royal family enough to not like anybody, but as far as the King Charles, I know he's been part of agreements with very scary people that I don't like. So many other people followed his partnerships with huge groups, and were like, what are they doing? Mind you, they are not the actual rulers of they are more what is the word for the royal family? They're not, they don't actually make legal decisions, but they are more ornamental. That I don't want to be insulting here. What would a good word for that be?
I think they're kind of
Symbolic.
diplomatic. I mean, they go around and say that again.
Symbolic.
Yeah, kind of that. They have a diplomatic role, but they don't actually make rules and they don't rule over it anymore. They do have some responsibilities, but it's not. It's all in the parliament now and in the prime minister. But they do, do a ton of appearances.
Yeah, so they might be able to get a country to say, "Hey, we'll work with you," something like that. But yeah, King Charles, 75, diagnosed with a cancer just days after being discharged from hospital for undergoing treatment for an enlarged prostate. So if it is prostate cancer, isn't prostate one of the worst ones if you don't get to it very quick? I don't know. That's a scary one. And then, by the way, thank you, Julie Pilkerton. Pray without ceasing, no matter what happens. Jesus, I trust in you. Julie, thank you for supporting Independent. And thank you as well, Neil Nelson. Thank you for the super sticker. Zen1AZ, it's been a minute. Hugs and love at Ilea. I hope all works out. Yeah, Ilea is in California and just had her animal sanctuary terrorized by the storm. And apparently her tortoise, which most of you know from previous things that have gone on, and he had some health issues quite a while ago and was saved from that, is now in her bathtub, I believe. So very, very crazy. She just had goats that gave birth during the storm, and her neighbor's house was destroyed by a giant tree. It's wild. So pray for Ilea and her family of animal friends. And you can always go find her channel over at marfooglenews.com/friends. I'll talk about that at the very end too. But thank you, Zen1AZ. And again, thank you for that. Let's see here. And before we move on, just a reminder, I'll make this quick since we already did so for our news as well. Harvest Rate, which is one of the most coveted freeze dryer machines. It's one of the highest quality. It's built extremely well. It's meant to last decades, not years. This machine is now on sale, actually several, on sale for $500 off. Again, this is the same discount that they did on Black Friday. They're only doing it for a very short period. I know that there's a lot of crazy things going on with the world. So they ended up deciding doing kind of a flash sale. And some people actually think that a lot of people are doing this right now, or a lot of companies, because they predict in March and in April that a lot of the shipping will go up. So again, make sure to take advantage of sales like this. This is the largest sale since Black Friday. It is the same discount you would get during the Black Friday that only happened over a weekend. So until the 15th, you can get $500 off on your own freeze dryer. And then you can get prepping for about 25% of the cost it would cost you to buy it prepackaged. Now, you, of course, have to buy the machine in the beginning, but once you do, you will save a ton of money. It depends on how much food you are really trying to get. If you have a family of 4 and you're trying to get 6 months to a year of food, yeah, this will end up saving you tons of money. Prepackaged freeze-dried food is expensive. It takes a long time to make. It takes very specific packaging. You can do all of that yourself at a fraction of the cost. And you can be thrifty with how you buy your food or how you get your food. I know people that freeze dry food from the food bank. But yeah, marfooglenews.com/freeze. It not only will help support us, you will get that $500 off. So go check it out. Harvest Right, one of the best freeze dryers on the market. All right. And then that again, let's go from Utah over to Syria. Deadly drone attack hits training ground at a Syrian base housing U.S. troops. So it continues. Of course, 3 perished, and that triggered the huge attack over in other places in the world. Now they say that they have hit many targets. Now they actually have struck a place housing U.S. troops. It says a drone attack late Sunday evening that struck a military base in eastern Syria where U.S. troops are stationed left at least 6 allied Kurdish soldiers perished. Again, this is not good. 6 people perished, but no U.S. soldiers ended up dying, which anytime they end up perishing, that could be World War territory. The attack hit a training ground at Al-Amar base in Syria's eastern province of Deir Zor. The U.S.-backed Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or the SDF, said in, by the way, that's the same as Japan, the Self-Defense Forces and the Syrian Democratic Forces, said in a statement Monday. According to the statement, the drone attack struck an area where the force's commando units were being trained. So they were going after very specific units of soldiers there. And then, Dex, do you want to go over the second atmospheric river in days turns through California? This is what Ilea just went through.
So it's interesting. We saw a little bit about this in the last week coming into it. They were predicting heavy rain. And as the week ended and it came into the weekend, they said, yeah, get ready for some flash flooding, that they were going to get a handful of inches of rain, 7 inches, I think they predicted. Well, now it's come out that, in some areas like where Ilea is, she said they had snow first, then floods and heavy, heavy, heavy wind. They said hurricane force winds. So this has caused problems all over California where what they're calling a back-to-back atmospheric river has run through that area. Of course, those areas from San Francisco Bay down to LA area, that Southern California area, it's not normal for them to get massive amounts of rain. They usually have the most perfect weather. Everybody wants to live there because they have perfect weather. It's it's always the right temperature. It feels great, and you're not just getting completely drenched like you do up say in Seattle or other places around the world. But nonetheless, they should not have been able to withstand this amount of rain, and they couldn't. They had mudslides, they had hurricane force winds, they had power lines down, they had trees knocked down, they've had roadways blocked. And in the case of, and I think there's even some pictures in this article, you can see some of the deep flooding where cars are just literally submerged. But in places like where Ilea lived, and I don't know exactly where she lives, and that's not for us to tell, but it's in that general area of California over there where all this went through. They had snow, they had massive, heavy torrential events coming from this that they were not planned for. Nobody told them that this was coming. They just had heavy rain. They just thought it was going to be a lot of rain. So there's some contradictions about what people thought was coming, what the meteorologists thought was coming, and then what really happened. So that's another reason to always be prepared. I love it when I heard Ilea say the generators are running, and she's obviously in chat and got her, I think her Starlink up and running. So spoken like a true prepper.
Yep, and I remember when Ilea got her Starlink, that was like she got one of the first ones. She had the deposit and like the put on down on the machine. And I have to say I was pretty jealous because at the time it was like the weekend before we got caught without any communications out by our family cabin. And it was like the Starlink, one of the neighbors had one already, and they were able to do everything. They were able to just, talk. They were able to use a phone service. They were able to do all that. We were completely in the dark. All you need is power. So if you have a generator in the Starlink, most places you can have the internet. There's another guy I follow now too, the gentleman who's on Starlink ads. He's actually a YouTuber. He goes to crazy places like fire towers. If you've ever been in the woods where they have towers that view to where they spot fires, and they now fix them up into like Airbnbs where they have a bed and bathroom and all that, but it's in a 60, 70 foot tower. And he plays scary video games. He'll do on a theme like scary video game of being in a fire tower in the woods. And he plays it with Starlink in a scary tower in the woods. I forget what his name is. I'll have to link him, but he goes all over the world. He travels like a van lifer but he also does his videos from all crazy different places and then also gives you a tour of the place. I don't know. I thought it pretty inventive, especially when creativity is going way down. I mean, to play a video game that was based on a scary story of a guy alone in a fire tower in the middle of the woods in the middle of nowhere, and to play that game in a fire tower in the middle of the woods alone, I thought it was pretty ingenious. So no wonder Elon picked him for his ads. But yeah, through this, if you have a generator, you're ahead of almost everybody else. And there's so many people in California that think, oh, it's going to be fine here. Oh, they don't get snow in California, at least not often. And for them to have snow, then rain, then to have torrential downpours and wind, it's like, this is what you prep for. You don't get a generator for the end of the world. You get it for things like this. Somebody else said the atmospheric river is such a stupid term, pure and simple, that it's basically some sort of weapon, right? At this point, the last few years, it's been getting worse and worse and worse. So thank you everybody that's praying for Ilea. Looks like Julie Pilkerton says, we got you. Very, very cool community. Speaking of the community, let's do a quick roll call. Where are you from? Just a general state or province. Everybody gets to know each other in the chat. Rick Johnson, thank you. Viv B, Briar Patch. Let's see here. Hi, here, see, here, think. I don't know about the speeds. You'll have to ask Ilea. Do you get super fast speeds with that? I don't know. And then Winston now, anything to blow the weather out of proportion. Well, some weather is absolutely crazy. Tupelo, Mississippi from Texas, Rochelle Cooley, Hammer Guy. Yeah, I get you. The atmospheric river. Yeah. Well, I will say this. I saw pictures of Ilea's neighbor, and it wasn't just a small tree. It was a massive, probably 100-year-old tree that fell on the neighbor's house, and it was a big house. Her neighbor has like this wood cabin looking house, and it was just right through the middle of it. It was big. And it was such a big house. I could not believe that house was not split in half. It must have been good builders. West Coast, Washington, Houston, Wilford Williams, Salem, Oregon, Angelo Perfelli from Salem. Thank you. No, Allison Terry, no wind. Devin Cutmore, fellow Canadians, West Central Texas. Huh. Wait, were you saying that there was no wind in California? Because maybe it was water that uprooted that tree. I don't know. Mid-state Oregon. I'm in, let's see here, Kansas, Okikon. I'm in Tennessee. Nice to see you. I have 3 generators, and my son got the new one. J-Pass. Yeah, you got to pass down the older ones. Sparks, Nevada. We've got Iselton, California. Mark Esquivel. We've got Mary Cad. Just Matt. I'm moving to Texas with a big old exclamation point. Hey, it's always exciting to move, but even more exciting when the state doesn't treat you like a piece of crap. Stay away, eh? Rick Caird. I think that means you're Canadian. And then hello from north of Houston. We've got Ireland. Big Chase watching from Ireland. Nice to see you. Hillsboro, Oregon. Zeus Thunderbolt. Florida is in the house. We've got Ohio. We've got the OHIO. Cold and very windy in central Florida. And then Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Cascade Foothills, Briar Patch, and Ilea. Thank you so much from California as well. 3 friends whose houses got hit by trees. Yeah, no wind in San Diego, says Big Sexy and On. Yeah, so how did so many trees get taken down? That's nuts. Rich cared. I did. Rich cared. I think that's how you say it.
Hurricane force winds.
Good day from down under. Sarcastic John Guerra. Yeah, so I saw many comments saying no wind. Like, are you saying there's no wind in parts of California? I didn't get that. But yeah. And let's see here. The real identity of Bitcoin founder Satoshi Nakamoto could finally be revealed in court and may unlock a $46 billion in cash, $36 billion in euros. Dex, I never claimed to know about the whole Bitcoin thing, but how is this even possible? How if this was possible, why didn't they just find a way to release his name anyways? Is this an actual wallet on the Bitcoin? Like
Yeah,
people knows
I've
it
I've
exists?
I've I've never claimed to know who, because there's all these rumors about who it is. But there is this person. So for those of you who don't know the whole crypto space and Bitcoin, it was founded by somebody who used the nickname Satoshi Nakamoto. So we don't know who it is. Like the person who wrote Bitcoin, the original version of it, and put it out there and distributed it. It's this fictitious name of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, everybody has their speculations of who it is, from three-letter agencies to big rich people to, insert your favorite cast of characters here. You go into the crypto world and everybody's got an opinion on it. But this gentleman named Craig Wright is in a UK court and he's 54 and he's an anonymous crypto king who disappeared from the internet over a decade ago. Wright, an Australian computer scientist who lives in London, has been arguing since 2016 that he is the real Nakamoto, a claim largely dismissed by the crypto world. Because, as I said, there's like a whole lot of other speculation as to who it is, and it's never been this guy. So, but he is potentially, suing the court and trying to claim that he is the rightful inventor. So, but the joke is not a joke, but like whoever invented the Bitcoin and crypto actually has a wallet that is, has a whole lot of Bitcoin in it, this huge stash, and it is a worth equivalent of like $46 billion. So that would make them one of the richest people in the world if they ever came out and could prove that that was theirs. But it's not a matter of court necessarily proving that it's yours, because I think what you need to have is the keys to that wallet. So I think the real person who is the owner or the inventor of this, the real Satoshi Nakamoto, actually has the keys to that wallet. And that's probably the best way to know who they really are, not just going and having a court case, but nonetheless, they're talking about it. This is interesting. The trial starts today in London, and it's expected to last a month, and it is backed by Twitter's co-founder Jack Dorsey, which is also interesting. So who knows? I don't know the interworkings of all this because I kind of got out of paying attention to Satoshi Nakamoto a couple years ago, but that's the latest. We'll see if they come out and actually identify who he really is, or if this person is who he claims to be.
Yeah, and I've told this story quite a few times, but my landlord's son told me when it was $30 per Bitcoin. It might have even been 13. It was under $30, and I had a bonus from my driving job. It was like $1,000, something like that. And I actually had my rent paid and had everything, and I literally could have just bought $1,000 worth of stuff. And by the way, this is when he told me about Bitcoin, and I'm like, oh, well, who started it? And he's like, oh, nobody knows. I'm like, okay, so do you get it? Do you get like a certificate? They're like, no, it's all digital. There is nothing. Like, they don't know who started it. It's nothing. You should go buy some. And I'm like, yeah. And this is before everything else. And I'm like, okay, buddy. So you pay somebody money to own nothing, and it's in a digital wallet somewhere, and you can't buy anything with it yet. Oh, but you will. You'll be able to buy stuff with it later down the road, and you'll own a chunk of something. Like, okay. To say the least, I did not get it. And within a very short amount of time, it just went, whoosh, and then the next time I heard about it, people were becoming millionaires. If I would have bought it back then I would have saw how crazy it went up, and maybe I would have got more, but it was like a big kick yourself in the butt. Like, even if I just got that and then let it sit somewhere, at one point when what was the highest? It was like $40,000 per Bitcoin. I mean, it's just one of those like if you had a lottery number and you picked all six and you picked lucky lottery numbers every time. And then one week you're like, nah, I don't want to play the lotto. And then that week it's like one of those. It's not going to help to rehash it. But it was pretty annoying. Considering too, like that would have been a lot of money. A full Bitcoin was like $13 to $30 or something, and $1,000 I mean, I at least could have got 20, 30, 40, 50, you know. Well, I'm horrible at math, but you guys know. You already have the number in your head because you're so good at math. 1,000 divided by 10, almost 100 bitcoins. If it was closer to the 13. And since I keep telling the story, it's not like you can't tell that I do kick myself in the butt every single time I tell that story. But watch, Sashituki Makamori is going to come out and he's going to go, "Ha, psych, I took all your money, fools." And then I'm going to be doing the hula hoop dance going, "Yeah." Probably won't even then. Does the hurricane scale need a category 6? This is what they're talking about. And for those of you talking about weapons, right? Well, they are literally talking about adding a 6th category to hurricanes. New climate study found 5 recent storms have met the threshold to be above a category 5. And then it goes into blah, 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 temperatures, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, they are actually debating, and in the next couple years, we may actually see a category 6 hurricane. It's pretty fascinating to say the least. If you do believe what most are saying, then it's kind of terrifying to think that the weather events are straight out of the movie Geostorm, getting worse and worse and worse. If you don't, you think, well, their weapons are getting worse and worse and worse. Either way, they're worse weather events coming down the pipeline, like the spider on a rainy day. And let's see here. We've got Guam, influx of illegal Chinese immigrants. Before we talk about this, I do want to remind you, make sure to go check out Energy. If you do lose power, you'll be just fine if you end up going and getting yourself a solar generator. This is, again, one of the best made solar generators out there. There is a wait for these. Again, I'd highly recommend going for the tactical. This is the same one that's going to be shipping out with the U.S. Army. They don't care about colors. They don't care about pretty. They don't care about this. They care about, will this turn on when we need it to turn on? Will it work in crazy conditions? This will. This is actually water and dust resistant. This has also got a steel frame, 1,500-pound latch system. Make sure to go check it out. Marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. It's expandable up to 96 batteries. Nobody's going to hear it from a block away. Nobody's going to hear it from 4 feet away. It's silent, and it can be hooked up to solar panels to get your power from the sun, or it can be hooked up via your wall, and you can charge it from the grid while you do have it. Then that power is stored onto battery cells, and again, these can be stacked like Legos. Coolest part is it can be modded to actually enter in UPS or supercharging, rapid charging, uninterrupted power supply mods, and more to be made. Say you get it today, and 2 years they develop a new unit that can alter its performance, slide it in like a Lego, and you have that feature. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy. Again, the tactical was designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory and is shipping out with the Army. There is a wait for these, though. The world is fighting over lithium. This is one of the highest quality generators on the market. If you can't get one of these or you can't do the wait, then I'd probably go with a gas-powered generator, use it in the interim, and then try to sell it and try to get as most of your money back as you can once you do get one. Or keep both. That would be the dream scenario. A lot of people can't store gas. Gas stations are probably not going to be doing well in an SHTF situation. So being a gray man, silent, and not having to rely on a liquid that runs out, that's a pretty good thing. As far as Guam, so, I mean, if you only watch the show, then we've talked about this for a long time. As far as the southern border, this has been the hot topic. And we talked about it years ago. Now the entire world is talking about our southern border. But now they're getting an influx of illegal Chinese immigrants on Guam. Why is that important? Well, Guam is one of the most defensively strategic locations for the United States. So strategic that we moved the Iron Dome system. The same Iron Dome you hear about in Israel We moved it to Guam. And as far as the base there and all of the military there, it is in an extremely strategic area. Now, all of a sudden, they're getting a huge influx of migrants. Why this is, getting a lot of people riled up is because there's been a theory for about a year now, and some even say that there is some stuff to back it up, that these might not be exactly somebody looking for a better new life in America, that they may be a force or a military force, basically going in undercover. I'll just tell you what they are saying for the migrants that are coming in through the southern border. Some are saying that it is an invasion force. You can of course be your own, have your own opinion on this. But as far as some of the documented things that they've seen happen is a crew of 18 to 25-year-old males come across the border, take a chicken, slice it, and drink it. That's literally a ritual that the PLA does. So people have seen stuff like that, put two and two together and go, oh, this doesn't look that good. It's a battlefield ritual or something like that. So when you see it in Guam and in the United States, and who knows, we may even see it in Hawaii, then it almost looks like something really is making sense out of that. Guam would be a very important place. And again, the reason why a lot of folks in the U.S. for decades and decades have said, hey, we're safe here, is because we had geographic safety. Back in the day, it was really hard for China to send an invasion force by Navy because we had a huge Navy. We could defend them. They wouldn't even get close. For them to actually come up on our shores and drop people, well, it's just not functional. It's not efficient. But if they already have a force here, that's a different story. If they already have pull, if they already have influence, if they already have people in place, that is what people are talking about. And we're not talking about Chinese in general. We're talking about the Chinese government and the Chinese military, the CCP and the PLA. So very, very crazy. I'm sure in the future they're even going to push this even more, that if you talk about this, that, oh, well, you don't like them because they're this, or, that's the R word. Nope. We're talking about the government and directly the people that are in that military. That is why it's being talked about on congressional floors. And meanwhile, while it's being talked about, the same day, they'll have a meeting with one guy saying, oh, I saw an alien. And they will put that all over CNN, but they won't put this. Just so happens some of the biggest sponsors for all of these news companies that are covering one but not covering the other happens to be companies that are directly connected to that three-letter country government. So what do you guys think? And just to read a couple of the quotes here, Representative James Moylan of Guam warned that the territory is being, quote, infiltrated by an influx. It says, told them that Guam has been infiltrated by droves of illegal Chinese migrants embarking on our shores. That was a direct quote. It's a great threat, he said, pointing to the possibility of the Chinese on the islands could be working to gather intelligence on behalf of the CCP in Guam and around the U.S. military bases on the island, which is a huge strategic point and a lot of really important stuff there. Moylan pointed to the reports from just last month revealing that boat captain and 3 other captains were charged with transporting Chinese nationals illegally to Guam. Also last month, the U.S. Coast Guard rescued 6 Chinese nationals on a sinking boat just north of the island. Moylan also pointed to a report in June, more than 24 Chinese nationals came to Guam by boat. What are they doing? Well, they say that the government is limited in the action it can actually take as it's a, quote, federal issue. Sounds like another one that might join the list of places that are going to be teaming up on each other or teaming up with each other. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, thank you so much for all of your help today. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Much love, brother. And guys, if you want more on that Guam story, make sure to share out that video that's over on news. We'll have a link to it at the end of this video here.
For love of country one, thank you for your massive support. Thank you for the super stickers. praying. Thank you. Jerry Shirts, what do you guys think of the Chinese coming across the border? Up 1,100% according to Fox, 31,000 in January alone according to CNN. And again, that's a giant number. And maybe they want us to know it. Maybe they're going to rub it in our face. I don't know. Love my Starlink, super fast, rock solid connection. Plus, it will work when the local network goes down. Craig Alicious, thank you for the support. And Adrian Maldonado, thank you, and thank you. Top supporter will be over on the Shout Show. Love you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.
His speech was terrifying. Hopefully they're all lying. His speech was terrifying. Hopefully they're all lying. His speech was terrifying. Hopefully they're all lying.
Thank you to our top supporter tonight for Love of Country 1. Number 2, Julie Pilkington. Number 3, Adrian Maldonado. We got our whole crew over on D-Live. Thank you, Mindy's mom, Skyhouse, Kimbria. The end is near. Kelly2334 stopping in. Peace and grace to all. See you on the replay. Speaking of the replay, make sure to click on that last video if you watched it. Click the news video. It's linked at the very, very end. Elusive says, hello, everyone. Haven't been here in a while.